My friends, occasionally you get the chance to travel through time. Not literally, not physically, but in a sort of metaphorical, metaphysical way. And that's a great thing about comics because they are imprints on little portions in time that we can go back and get a peek into what the world was like, what kind of dialogue and conversations were acceptable in the world 30 or 40 years ago. We're going to dive into that today. And to do that, I have not Remzo Martinez, who is on a very slight hiatus, as he tends to do sometimes, probably a BJJ injury or maybe COVID for the 8th time. We're not really sure. He is going to be okay. But in his stead, I have my good friend, one of our first listeners, one of our first patrons, and the man who first handed me a comic book so many years ago. I'm not even going to say the number. Eric, what's up?
Hey, Marc, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, sitting around talking about comics and recording it. I mean, basically the same thing as 30 years ago, only
we're recording it.
I guess more people are watching than 30 years ago, which would just be
I think
nobody,
so. That's true.
But before we get into that, Eric, I know, in fact, I'm going to tee you up for this because I know from our private conversations that you have some Fox & Sons at your house as well. Our sponsors at Fox & Sons, they provide a tremendous product. Here is the evidence. I have a 2-pound bag right here that I get shipped to my house every single month. Why don't you go check that stuff out? foxandsons.com. You got a bean for everybody, and then Eric is going to do an impromptu commercial and tell you about his own experience with Fox & Sons.
Yeah, so
no pressure.
No pressure at all. But after listening to the show, knowing Marc for so long, fantastic coffee. It's as good as Marc and Remzo tell you it is. I went and picked up 2 bags myself a couple of weeks ago, and I've been enjoying it ever since. Fantastic coffee.
Which beans did you pick out?
I picked up the Honey Prep and the Tea Berry.
The Pea Berry? The Brazilian
Pea Berry? Pea Berry, that's the one,
or
yeah.
the Tasmanian Pea Berry. I can never keep track. There's
Whichever
so many
one.
Honey Preps, Pea Berries, Tea Berries. The point is there's a lot going on, and they're all
tasty.
great. That is the point. The other point is that you can get yourself – I'm not just going to ask you to try this stuff at full price. No, I'm going to give you the Marc Claire, the SPC discount by using discount code SecondPrintPod. So I want you to head over to Fox & Sons, FOXNSONS.com, pick out some bags, spend $25. Maybe you'll even get free shipping. I don't know. And use that discount code, SecondPrintPod, all one word, for 15% off your order. Help yourselves. Get yourself some great coffee. Help this show. Help our sponsors. Everybody wins. All so that you and I, Eric, can dive into today's issue, which is the very first appearance of John Stewart, Green Lantern John Stewart. Eric, before we get into this, what is your own background history with the character of John Stewart? Did you have too much familiarity with him outside of his, off and on appearances in whatever books you may have been reading growing up?
It was primarily off and on. He would make an appearance here and there in the Green Lantern books and some of the other books that I read. I've never read this specific issue before, so this was a first for me. And it's been a while since I've read a comic from the late 60s, early 70s.
Yes. Well, I will say, the existence of this and the Marvel Unlimited app are the greatest things happening in the corporations known as Warner Brothers Discovery and the ABC Disney Corp, whatever they're known as. As much as we may complain about the modern product and their current books, you can hear some of my complaints. You can see some of my work. By the way, I am now a contributor over at Bounding Into Comics. You can see me complaining about some of this very stuff over on their YouTube channel. But the fact is, for just a few measly dollars a month that the patrons of the show are really kind to pay for me and Remzo, so we can review all these books for you, you get access to this treasure trove of classic shit. And some of it is gold. Some of it is the best stuff you'll ever read. Some of it's the worst stuff you'll ever read. Some of it is somewhere in between, like the Superman issue we did a couple months ago. I don't even know what to think of it, but it's a treasure trove of madness. So anytime you're upset about the current product, the modern product, look, you're going to find gems in these old, especially if you're diving back into the Silver Age, whether it's a gem because it really is a great old story, or whether it's a gem because it's just a what the fuck did I just read? And I'm not even sure which one this is. It might be neither of those exactly, but I think there's nothing else to say. I think we just got to dive right in.
I think it's a what the fuck did I just read?
I think it is, but
we should just dive into it.
There's a few factors here. So we are going to be looking at Green Lantern number 87 from the original Green Lantern series in the Silver Age. This was released December 1st, 1971. So keep that in mind. Keep the time frame in mind. Think about what American society may have been like at that time. If you're not American, just imagine your own society with fatter people and more cheeseburgers, I guess. This is written by Gardner Fox. I wonder if Gardner Fox had anything to do with the naming of Guy Gardner. Was Guy Gardner named after Gardner Fox? I bet Remso would either have the answer or pretend to, and I would believe him.
Pretend to.
Gardner Fox, Guy Gardner. See, we're doing live research. Guy Gardner. All right, someone needs to go back to podcasting.
That's me.
And turn their notifications off.
I never took podcasting class. I'm sorry.
Well, neither did I. I invented podcasting class. All right, I'm not sure, but I'm going to assume that at some point Gardner Fox was the reason that Guy Gardner got his name. Anyway, moving into this issue, it is drawn by Dennis O'Neil. Oh, no, actually, I'm sorry. This is written by Gardner Fox, Dennis O'Neil, and Elliot St. Magan. Took 3 writers for this one. 3 writers. Probably because there's a Green Lantern story that we may or may not read in this as well. This is when, by the way, it says...
You mean Green Arrow?
Yeah, what did I say?
Green Lantern.
Yeah, whatever. Well, it's interesting because the book is on DC app labeled Green Lantern, and that's the run. But on the actual cover of the book, it is Green Lantern, Green Arrow. And it really is, there are 2 full stories. Well, I wouldn't call them full. 2 half stories, I guess you could say, in this book. So I guess they did kind of share a title for a while, although for whatever reason in the chronology, this is not the official title of the book. So maybe it was always officially Green Lantern, and then Green Arrow just sort of hitched his arrow, I guess, to it for a while. I'm not sure. You don't
I don't know.
We should have that answer either, do you?
I don't have that answer either. I'm very sorry. I'm a very poor co-host. I got noises going off. I don't know any comic book knowledge. This is no good.
Well, you don't give me trouble like Remso does, so I'll take you over him today, to be honest. Because I don't know if I want to deal with Remso when we're talking about racial issues. It just gets a little too iffy. But
it's a little hairy.
And there will be racial issues. I'm thinking about titling this episode Hal Jordan makes his first black friend. I haven't decided if that's going to be the official title, but I'm at least going to toss it out there for the YouTube algorithms to think about. We start, though, on page 1, and I'm going to occasionally, because I'm not sure, there might be copyright issues with showing you a whole comic, so I'm not going to go through this whole comic, but occasionally I may share my screen and show you a panel or 2 when it feels appropriate. But we start off with a big splash page as we see... Guy Gardner, he's holding, not Guy Gardner. I'm obsessed with Guy Gardner. We see the Green Lantern of the time, Hal Jordan, holding his big lantern, and we hear a little narration. Somewhere in Southern California, this autumn day, Green Lantern is performing his familiar, almost storied ritual, touching his power ring to the battery from which it draws this mystic energy. Suddenly, the floor beneath his feet buckles. The air is immediately filled with dust. The walls bend and break. There is a sound like the shattering of a million huge china plates, and in that instant, the Emerald Crusader realizes a soul-chilling truth that this is an earthquake. Okay, so there is an earthquake. I thought he was just powering his battery, and that's how crazy the power battery got.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, but no, apparently there's some kind of earthquake. So Hal Jordan takes to the skies and goes to see what is happening. So there has been an earthquake. I'm immediately suspecting what villain is causing the earthquake. No, this is actually literally the villain in this is an earthquake. That is the plot of this.
That is the antagonist,
at least in this moment. So Hal Jordan flies up, and right at that moment, we hear this guy. He's yelling, "Susie, honey, listen to me. Sweetie, you got to come closer. I can't come to you. My weight's too much." And Susie, this little girl, is like on the edge of basically a bridge has broken in half, and she is standing way out on the edge, scared, and this guy is kind of coming up and trying to talk her down the ledge. But who is this guy, Eric? He doesn't look familiar, but we actually find out this is... Who is it?
It is Guy Gardner.
It's Guy Gardner. It's Guy fucking Gardner. Now, already previously, before this episode / issue, whatever you want to call it, Guy Gardner had already become sort of the backup Green Lantern. But this ain't Yo Mama's Guy Gardner. This isn't my Guy Gardner. This is not my bowl cut Guy Gardner. This is just some guy. What is this? What is this guy? This is just some blonde guy who just looks like any old guy. I gotta say, as what I thought was a Guy Gardner fan, I mean, I guess I'm the young upstart that was into 90s bowl cut Guy Gardner. There might be classic Guy Gardner, 70s Guy Gardner fans that think that the 90s bowl cut Guy Gardner is an asshole. So But I don't know.
Some might think that.
It really took me aback. Were you shocked to see Guy Gardner looking so normal?
I was surprised this was Guy Gardner. It just looks like your regular like coach from a high school. You know, he's got the whistle, he's got the sweatshirt.
I think he is a high school coach, right? They were on the bus, and then this earthquake hit, and then because he's heroic and whatnot, now I don't get, maybe it's like a secret identity thing, but I don't get why he wouldn't just immediately jump to, oh yeah, I can be a Green Lantern guy. Maybe he's just not supposed to use the Green Lantern powers until it's really an emergency. I'm not sure.
So I don't think he has it at this point. I think he is the backup Green Lantern if Hal Jordan falls.
Like he only gets it if he goes down.
I think that's right.
Okay, so they say like, hey, we're going to show you how to be a Green Lantern, but you're not going to really be. It's only going to be if this guy, now you got to go be a normal human. So hope you don't get fucked up. And that's exactly what happens, though. This kind of proves my point, and maybe the Guardians changed their policies down the line. I'm not sure, because now I feel, nowadays you got like 20,000 Green Lanterns at once. There's you got Hal Jordan, you got John Stewart, you got Jessica Cruz, you got Guy Gardner off somewhere, you got Kyle Rayner. There's just no limit to lanterns, and even when they destroyed the power battery, Guy Gardner just dreams up a new ring or something like that. That's a rant for another day. My point is maybe they should have given him a fucking ring so that what is about to happen did not happen. So Guy is trying to help the little girl. And then I guess there's I don't know if there's what's it called? When the earthquake hits, then another one comes in later, a smaller one. Aftershocks. There you go. See, you are a good co-host. You fill in all my
trying to help.
And the bus kind of flies forward and it just runs right into Guy Gardner. Regular human, high school gym coach Guy Gardner. And
with a huge whamp too.
What's that?
He just gets whamped.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it was going so fast, by the way, because the bus had been stopped, and then suddenly, so before the child could finish the story, the screech of rending girders? What are rending girders? Are those?
I have no idea.
I'm not a mechanic.
I think it's probably I think what I'm trying to say is the bridge is giving way.
The bridge. It's parts of the bridge.
Yeah.
Okay, so the bridge gives way, and that's what brings the school bus forward into Guy Gardner. And then Green Lantern saves the little girl and saves Guy Gardner, and that's when he realizes, oh my God, that's Guy Gardner. He doesn't have a bowl cut. He's just a fucking gym coach.
Right.
So he goes up to Guy Gardner. He makes him, do you like how he makes him a little gurney out of his green stuff? He constructs him a gurney. Does he actually have the medical knowledge to design that properly? That's what I know. That's what I want to know.
I don't know. He knows what one looks like, so he can just kind of manifest it.
I guess that's how it works. Like, do you need to understand the mechanics of a thing? Apparently not, or else he would have to be an expert in a whole bunch of different, how to design a whole bunch of different types of things and a whole bunch of different animals. But apparently he can just dream them up and they just function. That's pretty cool.
I'm going to try not to overthink it because it's a comic book.
You know the answer? Because comics. There we go. So Hal Jordan leans down, takes care of Guy Gardner, and tries to comfort him. He says, "Are you hurt, bad guy?" And this is when we get a note, by the way, a little editor's note. I missed the art of the editor's note. I feel like they are rarely used nowadays, and comics are confusing enough as it is. I always appreciated that as a kid, especially when I was a new reader in the early 90s. As you know, I started reading books like Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and as you might imagine, I didn't know who most of these characters were. And there'd be villains popping up, heroes popping up, referencing things. And they were always really good about having the little asterisk and the editor's note pointing me to some other issue that I could then go spend my hard-earned allowance money and go try to buy at some other comic book store. But very smart. And I miss it.
Yeah, so do I. I always enjoy getting those little notes because it gives me another book to go find.
Exactly.
Or not, depending on the context.
Or not. And we get this note. It says, note, Guy Gardner, the alternate choice to be Earth's Green Lantern, as revealed in Earth's Other Green Lantern in the March 1968 issue of Green Lantern. Okay, so he is the alternate Green Lantern, which again, I guess means he doesn't really get a ring, or this never would have fucking happened, right? He would just take the ring and stop the bus from falling and put the bridge together and build a construct bridge and everything would have been fine. So again, why have a backup lantern if you're not going to give him some powers? We go to the hospital, and Hal Jordan is talking to the doctors because he's a doctor consultant now too, and this doctor's saying like, I don't know, man, this guy's really messed up. He's going to be bedridden for at least 6 months. This doctor already has diagnosed that. Impressive. And Hal is just kind of sulking off and thinking to himself, well, this is not a good situation. You know, Guy has been chosen as my successor, the only other deserving one on Earth, fearless and honest. And they put that in quotes. So I don't know if that means he's not really fearless or honest enough, but I'm just going with Guy Gardner with Hal Jordan's inner monologue here. He puts them in quotes in his mind for whatever reason. He's the only other person on Earth fearless and honest enough to activate a power ring. I've been counting on him, letting my duties slide while I get my personal life together. And so he's just kind of sitting there lamenting this whole situation when we see now I don't remember this happening recently in comics when the Guardians can just astral appear in front any time and just talk to Hal. I did not recall that at all. I'm pretty sure that is so it's funny because now I'm like doing the reverse thing. I'm complaining about all these weird things in the Silver Age, but I have no right to complain. The things I grew up with, not having the Guardians appear randomly in the sky, that's actually the weird thing because this stuff was happening before I was even born. So who am I to complain?
Fair.
And so basically this guy says, this Guardian, he says, we have witnessed Guy Gardner's injury. It is our wish to designate another substitute for yourself. and Hal Jordan, being a normal talking human being, says, I concur. Now, maybe that is how people talk or it's 1971. I'm not sure. I wasn't there yet.
I like how quickly the Guardians just give up on Guy Gardner. They're like, well,
he's fucked.
He got hit by a bus and lived. He's only going to be laid up for 6 months. We're done.
Moving on. We're not worried about him. We're not going to use our immense power to try to help him at all. We're just he's going to be laid up. He may even be crippled. Fuck him. Let's go find a new guy.
That's right. Get rid of the coach.
So this whole time, yeah, I think you're right. I think we have not actually seen Guy Gardner as Green Lantern yet because that's its own first appearance that I have. So that cannot be, yeah. So he was just, I guess, just sitting around waiting for a long time to become Green Lantern. Man, so for years he was a bowlless haircut having character that didn't even get to be Green Lantern. That is interesting. I did not know that.
I think in his debut he was almost villainesque in his debut. We'll have to examine that at some point.
Well, yeah, that'll be our next issue we do. How about that?
Sounds good.
Anyway, Hal Jordan concurs and he says, "I concur, but who?" Well, my friends, we then go to our next scene when we are going to find out just who. And our narration says, "Who indeed have the Guardians chosen? To find the answer, come with us to a certain urban ghetto." To a certain urban ghetto where a cop is harassing some young black men. Yes, he says, the cop says, "Move along. You haven't got a game permit. These guys are just playing dice or something like that on the streets. And besides, you're blocking the sidewalk." And this guy's like, "Oh, man, just leave us alone." And this one guy with a fine-looking scarf says, "Yeah, fine advice, officer. Maybe you ought to check your law book and find out if they really need a permit to play dominoes. As for blocking, won't hurt anybody to walk around him." And this cop's saying, "Do you want trouble here?" And the guy's like, "No, I don't want it, but I'm not about to run from it." So, and this is John Stewart, by the way. And, I kind of like his character here a little bit, to be honest, because he's sticking up for these guys, but he's not being a total, like, ruffian about it. He's kind of like using the law against him. He's kind of like, look, there's nothing against the law here. Kind of, what are you going to do? But also with a little bit of attitude about him. Now that we've seen him in the flesh, so to speak, what did you think of just your first impressions of meeting John Stewart, the guy here on the street, standing up for these other guys, the cops?
I like the fact that he's standing up for the guys that are on the street, just trying to have a good time, right?
I mean, they're doing nothing wrong.
They're doing nothing. They're playing dominoes. They're having a good time. They're sitting there with their cardboard box. No big deal. But he gets a little crazy with the officer. If he's standing up for the guys, that's fine. But then he says, I'm not going to run for trouble. And he says, even with your nightstick, he trying to antagonize the officer.
He even says, "I kind of doubt enough you're man enough to give it." So and he didn't really even give the officer a chance. He should have at least see if his de-escalation worked. He came out kind of like being somewhat calm and like pointing out the law, but then he doesn't even give it a second. He skips right to like questioning the guy's manhood, and like, I don't care if you're a cop, a normal guy, some guy starts talking shit and questioning whether you're a man enough. I mean, you're escalating the situation. So I don't know, mixed reviews on John Stewart so far, but he is kind of giving shit to the cop, and these other cop is like, these guys got no respect, and this one cop's trying to sort of talk him down. He's like, "Fred, respect has to be earned. The way you acted, you didn't earn a Nicholsworth. So I like this other cop too. He's like, Fred, you're a fucking moron. Like, forget these guys. And
Exactly
meanwhile,
right.
we see that Guy Gardner. This is like his Ghost of Christmas Past here. Apparently, like this guardian is just floating around as an apparition as they go spy on John Stewart here. Hal says that's the man you want to trust with a power ring, with the finest weapon ever devised. And we'll get there. I was gonna make a comment, but I'm gonna wait. And the Guardian says he has all due qualifications, and we are not interested in your petty bigotries. Immediately, he knows Hal's racist. He's like, "What do you mean?"
Immediately calling him out for being a racist, and
doesn't even ask why. I mean, in fairness, it could be of the way the guy got a little too uppity with the cop, or it could just be like, how do you know? We just showed up here. How come the guys are always in the same city? Like, by the way, like the one guy on Earth that is good enough to be the backup to Hal Jordan happens to be Guy Gardner, who happens to live in Coast City, and then the next best guy also like all right, you're just mathematical probability. If we assume there's only one best person on Earth at any given time that can hold a power ring, and then you're telling me if there's a second that they're from the same city, maybe I can buy that as crazy as the odds are. But then you're telling me the third, I don't know. I think these Guardians are not really, I'm starting to think that the system's a little bullshit and they're not really searching around that hard. I'm starting to think they just choose random dudes.
You're starting to think the system's bullshit?
I'm starting to think that the system is fucking bullshit. And this whole time, I've been meant to think the Guardians did thorough research and had charts and spreadsheets and all of this. Turns out, no, we just show up and whatever guy, we don't even, whatever fucking gym coach or, guy, domino friend playing guy on the street. Anyway.
Yeah.
And immediately Hal Jordan takes us out. In fact, it's time. It's time to share the screen. I want to show you Hal Jordan being very upset at the implication that he might have a racist bone in his body. He says, hey, that's not what I meant. All right. Maybe he's brave. Maybe he's honest, and maybe he has the right kind of mind, but it's obvious he also has a chip on his shoulder the size of the Rock of Gibraltar. And, hey, fair enough, based on that short interaction we saw. Fair enough. He says, frankly, I think you're making a mistake. And we're just going to guide through for, a few panels until I decide it's not a good idea anymore. But then the Guardian here says, perhaps, nevertheless, our judgment stands. Again, he comes very much across like a Ghost of Christmas Past. So then I find this so funny. This is how it happens. Like, he's just sitting, Hal is just sitting with him. We just go to another scene where it says later in a nearby candy store. At first I thought this was a diner or a bar, and it's weird because it actually does look like a diner in the scene. If you look at the art, it looks like they're sitting at a diner, and there's a guy cleaning some dish or something, and there's a picture of a burger, but the caption says later in a nearby candy store.
I think it's to me it looked more like one of those old school like soda stores where people would go and get like a float.
Maybe this is just the terminology back then. Maybe that you just call it the candy shop and you get your soda pop and maybe you get a burger there too. But, we're there for the candy, we're staying for the burgers kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
Check out that cup, by the way. That what is that cup that
John
Stewart is holding? It's like a weird cup that narrows down and with a yellow top.
He's like squeezing it with his fist or something. And
he's got weird. He has like AI hands. Like how they always get the fingers wrong. That one finger on the bottom. Weird stuff. Anyway, I'm not an artist. I'm not here to criticize all the art. I'm just saying
we are actually here to criticize.
That's exactly why we're here. So we just skipped to this conversation already in progress. Hal Jordan says, so I'm asking, are you interested? And he's like, considering jobs aren't exactly plentiful for black architects in the land of the free these days, and I haven't worked in weeks, so time's not a problem. Sure, I'll try your gig. Might be laps being a superhero. My mama named me John Stewart. John Stewart. Square John to my friends. Only from now on, maybe you better call me Black Lantern. Which I don't think that name stuck. I'm glad they didn't go with that. But I did laugh. I did laugh out loud.
Me too. This is very, very cringy writing.
Bring us back. It's very cringy, but it feels oh so right because it to me it feels like the Silver Age should feel. It should feel a little out of place. It should feel like did they really write that? And it should feel like can they even say that once in a while? And that's how I feel reading really old Fantastic Four stuff too. Like early Fantastic Four is so fucking inappropriate. It's out of control. Anyway, maybe that's why I was drawn to it at such a young age.
Yeah,
No, just kidding. It was 90s Sue outfit. That's what you're to me.
that'll do it. That'll do it.
So now we go back to another scene where where Hal Jordan is explaining the science, I guess you could say, of the power battery. He's saying energy is broadcast by tachyon transmission from the master power battery on the planet Oa to these batteries. Of course, your ring can only absorb 24 hours worth at a time. Very inconvenient feature for these all powerful beings that can project their consciousness across the universe and float around with Hal Jordan, but they can only give you 24 hours of power. Okay, I guess we'll just accept that and move on. And John, not being one to, he doesn't strike me as necessarily the academic type, although he's an architect. He says, care to demonstrate. He wants to see this thing in action. And Hal says, well, we have a ritual, an oath, and it goes like this. Like, dude, I would just be like, relax, man. I just wanted to see you do some shit. Now I have to take your oath. But anyway, he goes right into it in blackest night, in brightest night, in blackest day. In this case, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's light. And John Stewart, I gotta say, John Stewart's winning me over. He says, man, that's pretty corny, except for the part that says, beware my power. He's like, yeah, I dig those words. What did you think about that?
I kind of agree with Hal's initial assessment. It's like, this guy really, he's a little aggressive.
Why? What do you think? Okay, aggressive, huh?
It's just a little,
You don't think that's stereotype of any kind that you might be bringing into this conversation?
I'm trying to be very objective while reading this.
All right. Well, I never thought I'd be the one here defending them, but I gotta say I'm kind of liking John for his attitude, and I think I'm seeing what the Guardians are seeing in him. Just kidding. We know they didn't do anything. They literally went, is there someone down on the next street? Oh, there he is. We may as well begin your field training. You'll need a proper outfit. Boom. So he constructs himself a green outfit, Green Lantern outfit. He says, man, these aren't my threads. James Brown, these aren't any threads James Brown will wear. Well, you know James Brown, my friend. But they beat my usual Salvation Army special. He says, only one thing I won't wear, any mask. I won't wear any mask. This black man lets it all hang out. I got nothing to hide. He's like, all right, cool. No objection there. I guess Hal cares about concealing his identity, but John Stewart, look, I guess maybe in the context of like, if we're accepting that we're in this time when maybe there was more racial strife and maybe it was more difficult for a black man in Coast City, in this fictional city or whatever it may be, maybe I can also sort of believe that it's why have a secret identity, because maybe this is an upgrade. If you're just some poor black man who can't get a break, well, fuck it. I'm gonna at least show people that I'm this guy that now has these powers too. What's unfortunate here, now we might have to go back and see the first appearance of Guy Gardner. I kind of call foul here if Guy Gardner never got a ring and was just told he's the backup, but John Stewart's getting to fly around. He's getting to do all this shit on day one. No tests. No, he doesn't have to accomplish any task. It's just it. The Guardians have decided, and he's the man. So,
well, I don't know if he's getting a real ring or if it's just like a temporary.
Maybe not, because they don't show. He's just demonstrating. So maybe Hal is just sort of imbuing the powers on him for a minute, and because he constructs the outfit onto him, but then it seems like John Stewart has powers too. So he's like, hey, you've got a real talent, John. You've quickly mastered the skills necessary to sustain flight. It's easy compared to the skills needed to reach my dad. Maybe he shares some of the power with him again, because comics, they don't really go into this, but it doesn't look.
Well, he gives him what looks like a fake ring, which, mind you, is yellow. So I'm not sure.
I think it's I think it's not really yellow. I think it's like just a lighter shade of green, and that comes across as yellow in the way this is colored. Like, it does look yellow. I'm just saying I don't think it's supposed to be. I think that's just like how a lighter green has to come across, because they're drawing green on green on green here, and I think that just doesn't come across well. It does look yellow there. I'll give you that. It seems like he just gives a little of his power to this other ring. So I think that's what it is. Maybe he gives him one of the 24 hours or so.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, man, you've quickly mastered the skills necessary to sustain flight. And John says, it's easy compared to the skills needed to reach my pad after dark. Those muggers, something else, man. And then they say, hey, look, down at the airport, there's some commotion going on. They say, oh, there must be a celebrity sighting. Well, and they say, well, I wonder which celebrity. Well, maybe we should go drop in, check it out. And it's not a celebrity. It's actually a whole protest. There's a crowd that is surging towards this plane in the path of a fuel truck. So it's basically, I think it's like some environmental protesters or something. A tire hits an oil slick, and suddenly the truck is out of control, plummeting towards the man. They really picked a convenient time to come down right at the exact moment that this truck was about to plummet towards people. They both fly down. Hal goes right towards saving this truck full of people. Or this group of people, and John swoops in. He's like, "You gotta get those people out of harm's way. I'll see to the wheels." Taking a leadership role right away. He's not in no way taking a back seat. A gush of thick oil spurts forth, showering the spectators. I'm not gonna say I'm unhappy if some of these guys are getting sprayed with oil, these protesters, but whatever. Including Senator Jeremiah Clutcher. I don't know if this is a character we're supposed to know or not.
I don't think so. But if you look at that, specific panel there, there's a little continuity issues.
Okay,
I see with this.
That's why you're here again. What's the continuity?
So if you take a look, it's the one with number 8, where he's holding up the oil tanker.
Here, why don't I just
take a quick look at the Green Lantern that is saving the day, who is supposed to be Jonathan Stewart. Do you see a problem with Jonathan Stewart there?
Is that supposed to be John Stewart?
It is supposed to be Jonathan Stewart.
Yeah, because he flew down to get the. Yeah, he said I was going to get the tanker, and
he's got a little Michael Jackson thing going on there.
What are these other? Oh, that's the oil spraying on those. I like how the oil is. I love how the oil is spraying directly on these guys. Like it's like it's actually just targeting this one guy specifically. Yeah, that is not a black man at all, and the hair is wrong too. It's not even like the coloring was just wrong here. It's like
totally wrong.
Looks like Kyle Rayner.
Yeah. So at this point in the book, I was like, no. I was like, I don't want to turn the next page. I know what's going to happen on the next page.
No.
And what has happened? What happens on the next page?
Let's find out.
Blackface jokes.
Of course we have blackface. Why? Because it's 1971. It's oil. So the oil that's sprayed right, which is so funny that it almost seems intentional, but I don't think it is. But like that, we get blackface. The panel right after, we get the miscolored black man who's white. And then we get a blackface. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into this. He says, this is an outrage. What, having blackface? Or is blackface an outrage or just having oil on you? Someone will pay. All right, we're going to continue here. And then John Stewart just comes right up. Now, this is when you see he's got a little bit of an attitude, you could say. He says, haven't I seen you picking cotton someplace? Now, look, this is the black man saying this to the white man. But so basically, John Stewart is acting... And he's taking on the role of white man mocking a black man because this guy now has the black oil on his face, and he's basically treating him like he would treat a black man if he was a white man. Wow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think it did. And then John Stewart, as you can see here, is so fucking happy. He is so proud of himself. He thinks this is the funniest fucking thing ever that he just made fun of this like oil tycoon or the senator actually that has this the blackface now. And Hal's following him. He says, John, you were stupid and irresponsible. He says, so I maybe missed my aim with the power beam, and the senator got a little. So he did I didn't even realize that he did it on purpose. That's why it was so directed. Yep. Now that's impressive. All right. This is his first time ever having powers, ever having a Green Lantern, and he was able to fire the ring at the exact point on the oil tanker to make it shoot directly in the face of the senator so he could give him blackface, so he could make this cotton picking joke. Holy shit.
Yeah, this is a case of
This is why I love doing this podcast, because I would I probably never would have read this, and I certainly would have talked about it in this detail.
This is a case of the more things that change, the more they stay the same. You are seeing exactly this now, where you've got heroes who are coming up, just all of a sudden get powers, and they're doing it better than their counterpart.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it was happening right then.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like, he has the natural skills, you could say. He says, where's to worry about? I've been dark all my life and I'm surviving. He's like, it's no big deal. He's like, I don't believe you, miss. He's like, okay, I did. Now he gets mad. He suddenly look how mad he got. Look at his face. He was so happy and then so angry immediately. Okay, I didn't. Listen, Whitey. Now this is getting serious, all right? This just went from like they're having a good time to like we're in a full-on race war. Listen, Whitey, that windbag wants to be president. He's a racist, and he figures on climbing to the White House on the backs of my people. And he says, you think that's a racist? You think he's a racist? Tough. Nobody appointed you. I love this conversation. Nobody appointed you the judge. You need a lesson, and I'm the guy who's teacher. As of now, I'm assigning you to guard Senator Clutcher. Now, that's hilarious. After this happened, first of all,
great.
first time with the powers. Now, in fairness, he's proved he can use the powers really well by being so accurate with the oil. But his solution to the guy he just shot oil in his face and said he hates and thinks it's racist is for him to guard him. This is his plan. Are you serious?
Great plan.
Whew.
Teach him a lesson.
And he says, if anything, but maybe it could be just Hal, 5D chessing here. Maybe he doesn't really like the cut of John Stewart's jib, if so to speak. So maybe he's like, look, if I set him up to fail, the Guardians are going to see like this guy sucks, and they're not going to make him my backup. That's what I'm thinking. Hal's going with this. So he says,
give him a little challenge.
He says, if anything happens to him, you've had it. And this is I think my favorite line in this whole book. One last thing, don't call me Whitey. Something in that reminds me of that bit about he who is without sin casting the first stone. Now we laugh here, but I do actually like this little bit of dialogue. It does show that there is some nuance here to the way they address this sort of racial issue, and clearly it was an issue of the times, and it's something that they're not addressing, and they're making it more than just than either way. They're not making out Hal to be this total racist asshole, but they're making it nuanced, and he's not just going to take being called Whitey and not call someone out for it. So I do really say, even though it did make me laugh too, I think actually on a level of writing, I actually genuinely do appreciate it as dialogue, even though I primarily find it funny.
They do a good job of capturing, the essence of the time. This is from, neither of us were alive then, but from what I've heard, and what I've seen and what I've read, this is pretty much what the late 60s, early 70s were like.
Just with power rings.
With power rings, yeah, and with race relations, whichever should you take. So, they did a pretty good job of capturing, that little angst in here. I thought it was overplayed a little too much in this book, but.
Yeah, you could say that. We then go to later that night at a stadium. This senator's fucking popular. This guy, it says tonight on the side of the thing. Tonight, Senator Clutcher. What are senators packing stadiums? Was that a thing in the 60s, or is this completely made up, inaccurate history? I'm disposed to think the latter.
I mean, look at what Donald Trump's doing.
Yeah, but Trump is no Senator Clutcher here. I mean, I could see Trump back in the stadium, but Senator Clutcher?
I mean, there are people meeting Senator Clutcher at the airport.
Maybe he's really charismatic. I guess that's true.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
The senator speaks to a rapt audience. He says, understand, I've got nothing against the... All right. Look, for you YouTube algorithm, listen to me. I'm reading from a comic book that is on a website owned by Warner Brothers Discovery. All right, these are not my words. These are the words by mega corporation, publicly accepted mainstream corporation, Warner Brothers Discovery. Anyway, Senator Clutcher says,
"Yeah."
Understand, I have nothing against the darkies, but it's a scientific fact that their brains are smaller. This is the guy that Hal, now I can see. Now, honestly, now I can kind of side with John Stewart more here. If knowing this is the kind of shit this guy says, I can't really fault him for any of this stuff, to be honest. But it's a scientific fact that their brains are smaller than normal. Because of their limited intelligence, they can't appreciate the finer things. And now we see Hal, this is the big test. He's trying to see if John can control his rage and do the right thing even when he doesn't like somebody. So actually, in a weird way, I'm starting to think this is a pretty good test from Hal. He says he's babbling nonsense, all right. Such stupidity is the price we pay for free speech. And John's saying, look, I'm getting sick to my stomach. And then, because just at the right time, all this shit goes down, some guy jumps out and shoots at Senator Clutcher. He says, you'll die for your lies. And then these new Green Lanterns spring into action. Hal says, the assassin, he's escaping, move. And John just says, not me. You go chasing him. I'm leaving. And then, Hal is thinking to himself, I'll tend to Stewart. Shove the power ring down his throat after I nail the gunman. And he basically just, it seems like he just holds him down and seemingly, oh, no, that's the gunman. That's the gunman he's holding down, and then he's going to worry about John later. So he says, the funny though, the gunman saw me coming, yet he didn't use his pistol. I'll ask why when he wakes up. And Hal just decks this guy, not even using his power. He just knocks his ass out with a regular,
completely unnecessary,
regular old human fist. And then meanwhile, in the parking lot outside, a policeman tenses, sensing trouble, unaware he's framed in the sights of a submachine gun. And this cop is thinking to himself, sure did get quiet inside. This windbag must have run out of wind. At least I hope that's the reason. And then someone or the Green Lantern like construct comes and grabs him and yells, watch it. He saves this guy from who is about to be shot by this other guy. He says, we got us a junior grade Al Capone lurking behind the cars. Cat hasn't heard choppers went out. What? Cat hasn't heard choppers went out of style with the roaring 20s. Choppers are those long mullets, I think, right? Is that what that is? Choppers. Well, he won't be using that again. One again, nor much anything else. So John kind of stops this other guy who is, I guess, another assassin. And this cop comes up to him and says, thanks, fella, you saved my hide. And John says, don't thank me. Thank this ever-loving ring. Best trinket a man ever wore. And then Hal comes up, grabs John Stewart. I'm gonna share the screen again. I think it's time. My name's Green Lantern II, remember? And because he can't be Black Lantern, we already discussed that. And Hal says, no, it's not. You're a disgrace. I gotta say, just as a demonstration, I really love props to Warner Brothers Discovery, whoever made the app. I love the scrolling here. Very convenient for doing this podcast. No, it's not. You're a disgrace to your uniform, your ring, and yourself. I warned you. This is when we get this is a really intense confrontation between John and Hal. He says, steady. I don't like being manhandled. Listen, you round up the pistol that cat fired at Clutcher, and meet me inside. You're gonna have your own lesson, teacher. Oh, really? Let's see. We skip right to the next scene, as often as a very Silver Age thing. We just skip a bunch of shit all the time. They're like, all right, now we're here. Now John's explaining. The thing is, I spotted the pistol packer with the sender this afternoon at the airport. Likewise, I spotted the machine gun artist. So he's actually paying a lot of attention this whole time. I asked myself, why is one shooting and the other missing? The answer is in the gun you're holding, Green Lantern. It's like a Scooby-Doo mystery now. It's filled with blanks. Dun, dun, dun. And Green Lantern takes them out. Sure enough, Hal takes them out. They are filled with blanks. And he explained, yeah, it's a frame. While Pistol Pete was blasting the sender with blanks, the real killing was supposed to take place in the parking lot. That way, it looks like the blacks are on a rampage and Clutcher is everybody's hero. So, let me sum up the plot, the actual false flag that was set up here. Fake assassinations. Clutcher is such a racist and presidential candidate packing stadiums. He's doing both. He's so popular he can fill a stadium, but he also has to do this like these weird machinations to make black people look bad. So he hires a fake assassin to try to kill him to garner sympathy and cause a distraction, while another real assassin is going to go shoot a cop and pretend he was a black guy shooting a cop to start a race war. That's what Senator Clutcher's plan was. So that's basically what he explains. That's why that way it looks like the blacks are on a rampage and Clutcher is everybody's hero. And then John explains, then Clutcher waltzes into the presidency. This is the grand, John figured all of this out by just noticing two guys that looked familiar from earlier at the airport. Waltzes into the presidency, and pretty soon this country is ripped apart with civil war. He has foreseen, John is Nostradamus here. He has seen this whole thing playing out before his eyes. And Hal Jordan says, Clutcher, this is evidence, by the way, that he's figured this out. Clutcher, you're beneath contempt. I'm certain your colleagues in Congress will bounce you back to where you belong. Then a scene skip later. Hal says, I'll admit, John, your style turned me off. I was more than ready to stick blame on you. And so that's what we find out. John wasn't not reacting because he wanted him to get killed. He was actually not reacting because he already figured this out. I guess that's what we're supposed to believe, that fast, from the time the gunshots went off, he already knew that there was nothing to worry about with Clutcher getting killed. Or maybe we're left to not know that. And I'm not really clear. Maybe he was fine with him getting killed. It's hard to say.
Very hard to say.
But John says, no sweat, pal. Only style isn't important any more than color. Where or when, no man can say. But rest assured, John Stewart will return. That's our issue. There's a whole other issue here, which I thought about us reading. I'm not going to really read it. I think we're going to just grade this story because it's its own story.
Oh, man.
We can still talk about this. I'm just saying I think they should have separate grades is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just want to start by grading this 13-page introduction of John Stewart. And I think my views have changed even while I'm reading it out loud with you. But just take it away. What do you think of this thing? Remove this.
So it was very cringe to read through. Also very reminiscent of, I shouldn't say reminiscent, stories today are very reminiscent of this. I saw a lot of parallels between some of the stories that are being told today versus this one. A lot of the same themes keep coming up, which is very unfortunate that this stuff keeps coming up and this is still an issue that's being discussed. If I'm going to grade this thing, which I think I'm going to,
yes.
I'm not particularly impressed by this book so far. The story here, I think, is pretty average. They lean on stereotypes way too much, and I don't know who's writing this, but it reads very comically, not in a comic book sense, but in a clownish sense. So I'm going to give the story kind of mid-range. I'm going to go with a 3 on this one.
Oh, okay. That's not too bad. It's not too bad.
Art on this, despite being done by Neil Adams, I can't stand this art. It is horrible. This gets is it better than what I can do? Yes. But I don't like it. Art on this gets a 2.5. This is a 5.5 for me.
Wow. A 5.5 for the debut of John Stewart. Feels kind of racist, but I don't know.
If they could do a little bit better on the art here, they were kind of mailing it in my opinion.
This is one of those cases where I always try to judge things based on their era and based on their era a little bit. Now, I'm going to agree with you right off the bat on the art. Let's just get right to that. The art, so I'm not even sure. 2.5 seems generous. Maybe it's right. Maybe this was average art for then, but the scene with some of this shit, like the hand, like I don't know what is going on with John Stewart's hand in that one scene. It's straight up bad in some parts, but average. I know what's going on, so I guess I'll stick with an average rating. I mean, sure, but it's not good. You're right. It's certainly not good.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at stuff other than just the cup scene, right? The last panel on this part of the story, you've got Green Lantern there, and his emblem's missing from his chest, which is clearly visible. And there's other things where
other parts too. Yeah,
the mask is half drawn on, and where it's supposed to be Jonathan Stewart, but they drew Hal Jordan.
Some of it is the coloring potentially too, but the point is we're grading this thing all around. Yeah, I mean,
let's not bring coloring into this, Mark.
No, that's not what this is about. I'm going to go with you on a 2.5 on the art. I'm going to go a little bit higher on the story. A couple of reasons. I'm grading a little bit on a curve, and I actually found myself kind of laughing out loud a couple times. Maybe not for the exact right reasons. I'm actually not even sure though. I'm not sure. Maybe the whole Whitey thing. Maybe I laugh at it now because it's so out of place in something you would see in mocking in a book now. But I'm not sure how funny it's supposed to be or how truly if it's supposed to show true racial vitriol and tension more so. It's hard to say. I think the answer is a little bit of both. That's kind of the way I feel from it. And I thought this would be. I think this is better than it seems. Maybe, if that makes sense. I think for a comic in 1971, which is already not something that takes itself necessarily too seriously, but does want to address social issues, it does touch on that in a certain way. And I do like the attitude kind of John Stewart, even if this book is a little bit ridiculous. Of course it is. I'm going to give the rating a 3.5. That is a curved 3.5. That's curved based on the era and the time and all of that stuff. But you know what? At the end of the day, I laughed out loud. I enjoyed reading it. It is not a drag at all. And I had a good time. So how low of a grade can I really give it with saying all those things? So I'm going to give the rating a 3.5. It brings it to a 6 total for me. Still not aces here, but it's okay.
So we've got an 11.5 combined for the first part of this book.
All right. So do you want to go? Do you want to go through the second part?
the Green Arrow.
I don't think we need to go panel by panel on that thing, but we can talk about what I mean. There's definitely a theme to this issue of Green Lantern / Green Arrow here. Yeah. But why don't you give me some of the main points? The short story is there's a race war and Oliver Queen wants to become mayor to stop it. The race war that John was so worried about Senator Clutcher, setting off, it seems to have set off already.
Yeah, well, I think what's really going on here, right, is that the current mayor of Star City is looking to retire, looking for a replacement. Kind of pins that on Oliver Queen, aka Green Arrow. And what this story is going on is they give Green Arrow a call say, "Do you want to be mayor?" And then he contemplates, and he calls all his buddies.
There's
Black
literally
Canary,
a pull page of just him calling buddies, calling other,
calling his pals, his superhero
Wayne,
pals,
Clark Kent, etc.
which we'll go over. We'll go over that page in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
And then he needs to go talk to his bestie, who's apparently Black Canary back in the day. So he uses his rocket powered arrow to fly across the city, which, by the way, at this point, Oliver Queen is broke. So I don't know why he's using these very expensive arrows to fly across the city.
He's
he could just
not
walk,
rich at this
take
point?
the subway. No, he's broke. It says at the start. Yeah, he lost all his money, which seems kind of early on. So he realizes he's going off track, and what's he do? He bails, and he lands in the middle of a race riot. He gets smacked in the face. The kid that smacks him in the face gets shot. Kid dies. Green Arrow cries. I'm going through this. I'm going through this, man. He told me to go through it. And then at the end, Oliver Queen, he decides maybe I should run for mayor. And Black Canary leaves to go to work.
I will say I'm going to share this one panel of this. I mean, honestly, the art in this. Well, I guess we can grade it too. The art in this is like so much better. This is an awesome panel.
Jesus. So this panel is good. Go back to his phone call one.
Okay, I'll get us back there.
Because we need to go over the art in this because this is not better, my friend. All right. Look at what Bruce Wayne's wearing. Next one.
Bruce Wayne. Okay.
Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne. What is Bruce Wayne wearing here?
Wow.
Bruce Wayne, billionaire, is wearing cut-off jean shorts.
This is very confusing. He is wearing
tight jean shorts.
Hold on. Okay, so wow. Okay, so he's got like a button-down shirt, like not what you would wear at the pool. He's at the pool, but he's got a towel around like he's at the pool, and then he's got what would look like a bathing suit bottom, were it not for the fact that it also looks like jeans and has a pocket in the front. What the fuck is this?
Right, and they're really cutting into him. This is some of the worst art I've ever seen in a comic book.
It's just confusing. I'm not even mad. I just want to know what was going on.
Yeah, it's just bad. Other than that one
maybe
he's
going out to the pool, but it still doesn't explain why they're jeans. But maybe he's going out to the pool, had taken his bottoms off, and was about to go do the top, take his shirt off, but then he gets this call from Oliver Queen about being mayor, and next thing you know, he's just wearing his little jean bathing suit.
Right, on his 1970s, early 1970s portable phone.
Wow.
That I don't.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing here?
Did we have that?
Well, I mean, it's Bruce Wayne. He's a billionaire.
Well, yeah, we can chalk that up to Bruce Wayne. Anybody else you want to examine? You want to look at who's this supposed to be? My brother's.
That's who is that? That is that's Hal Jordan, by the way.
That's Hal Jordan?
Yeah, it's Hal Jordan.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God! In the same issue as we saw actual Hal Jordan, they're going to give.
This is how they tie it together. This one frame
Hal
right
here. This art is going down fast.
I told you. And then Clark at the end. Clark looks fine.
Clark looks. I mean, I knew it was Clark immediately, so I'll say that it looks like a good Clark.
Yeah.
All right, well, do you want to grade this one too?
Yeah. So I'll start with this one. So the story on this one was much worse than the last one. They moved things along way too quickly. He landed in the race riot, gets smacked by a kid, and then the kid 3 panels later gets shot for no reason. And you can't even tell what's going on in these panels. You've got Oliver Queen gets hit. It doesn't look like the kid hits him, but the kid did hit him. And then the kid gets shot, but you don't see where the kid got shot from. And this looks like a relatively peaceful riot, like gathering of people, except for, as soon as Green Arrow gets in there. So it's like,
then people start getting shot.
Yeah, then people start getting shot. What's going on here? So I'm going to give the art on this one a 2. This is really bad. There's nothing good in here. The faces are really bad, except for that one that Marc showed, where Green Arrow's crying. Rightfully so. He had a rough day.
That's the only good panel, actually.
Yeah. Story on this one, I was so taken out of this by the art. Art was really bad. Did I mention the art's bad in this?
I think so.
I think I might have. It's so bad, it took me out of the story. I'm giving the story a 2 on this one. This gets a 4.
You know what? I'm with you 100%. 2 and 2.
Yeah.
That's an 8, and that's an 8 between two of us.
Yeah. It's pretty bad.
And I don't know, does that average the whole? That being said, though, if I was just gonna, as a physical issue, if I was just gonna recommend, if someone saw this in a $1 bin or a $2 bin or even a $5 bin, or just, I would certainly recommend stopping and reading it because it is a interesting historical curiosity, I think, on several levels. And if you think that's interesting, I didn't read it, but boy, was it tempting. And look, it's a 52-page issue. Boy, was it tempting. I'm gonna do it at some point. I wasn't ready for more. But look at the next issue of Green Lantern, Green Arrow.
I mean,
I'm just going by the cover. Are you people crazy? He's trying to save us all. And so it's basically some guy being crucified and Green Lantern and Green Arrow trying to stop it. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't even know what goes on there, but it's 52 pages. And I didn't have time for that at the time. So
That's right.
but I think we also got to go back and check out. I mean, this could be its own podcast, just the Silver Age Green Lantern podcast. I mean,
you got a whole bunch of really good issues in here. I mean, if you go back a couple to 85, that's the Speedy as a Junkie.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Well, that we should be reviewing. All right, so maybe this is the new podcast. Move over SPC. Hello, Silver Age Green Lantern podcast with Eric.
Green Lantern and the Green Arrow.
Maybe we'll do them as a bonus show sometimes. That is needless to say. Check your inboxes. If you don't subscribe to us on Substack, what are you doing? secondprintcomics.substack.com, I think. You can find it. You're smart people. Hopefully you're subscribed to that. There will be a notification, an email explaining a new direction we're going with some things. As I mentioned earlier, I am a contributor for Bounding Into Comics, so I have a lot of work on my plate, extra work on my plate on that end of things. Remzo also has a lot going on too. I want to wait for Remzo to fully explain everything we're going to be doing to you. But check out the inbox because you have a little bit more information in there about what is going to be coming with SPC going forward. Let's just put it that way. Until then, Eric, any final words before I sign us off here?
Don't read this comic.
I disagree. Read this. So you really think people shouldn't read this? Come on.
I mean, if you at
least John Stewart, you got to read the John
Stewart
half.
If you want to read the John Stewart half, go ahead. But I can't recommend reading this. It just was not. I didn't enjoy this. Okay. Sorry, Mark.
Well, I'm going to make you read this. I'm going to make you read this soon, and we're going to see what happens. See if you still want to come on.
Now this one, little crucifixion can't go wrong.
All right. Well, that being said, next week I'll probably wrangle Remzo back again, or maybe I'll just bring Eric right back to read more strange Silver Age Green Lantern tales. Either way, until next time, don't forget to read comics, change the world.